Hey guys, my name is Woody Money. Welcome to Living in the Secret Place. I have a very special guest tonight. Her name is Melanie Taunton. She does live devotionals from Facebook, and she's going to tell us her motivation behind that and how she got started. She's also going to share her testimony with us. She's also going to give us her take on intimacy with God. I cannot wait to share it with you guys. Let's check it out right now. Welcome to Living in the Secret Place. I'm so glad that you came on, and I'm excited to hear what God has put in your heart. And with all the different things that you're doing, it just makes me excited. Actually, you don't know this, and I haven't told you this, but back when I was really trying to think about what God wanted me to do next, it was seeing your video and a couple of other people doing devos on Facebook that actually inspired me to want to do my own. And it was a buddy asked me several, almost like a year ago, why I didn't, do this. And I was like, I don't know. And then finally, you guys inspired me. So you were instrumental in that, and I appreciate it, helping me step out, stretching me. So thank you for coming.
That's crazy to me.
No, thank you for coming on the show. I guess we'll call it a show. Thank you for coming on the show, and I appreciate you. I know you've got a really cool perspective, and can't wait to hear it. So what I'd like to do, I'd love to just kind of hear, who you are and a little bit about what you do, and then we can dive in.
Okay, so do as in my everyday career type stuff.
Oh yeah. Tell us everything. We want to open front cover. On the front cover, what does it say on Melanie's book?
Well, I'm not sure if that will take longer than the actual part of the video that you want, because God's got my hand in a lot of different cookie jars, I kind of say right now. So after 10 plus years of working retail and managing and things like that, working customer service, which still is my passion and my love and what I went to school for, God has basically brought me out of retail, and I'm currently working for my dad. He owns a tire shop, so retail to tires, it's
Nice.
a little different.
Nice.
In my hometown, I work 3 days a week, and it's part-time, and it's a flexible schedule that I make myself. So it's been a huge blessing for me and my family.
Yeah.
And then the store I was at previous, I'm actually still making a schedule for them at home. So I still kind of have my foot in the door with retail a little bit. I'm thankful God on literally my last day there, I got asked to still do that, which kept my connection with them and allows me to still go and help at events and things and stay connected to them, which has been great, because right now having a big network is super important, since I'm currently studying to get my real estate license.
Wow.
That's why I asked. I was like, are you sure you want me to tell you the list of the things?
No, that's awesome. You'd be great at that.
Well, thanks. So that is what, back in February, actually, this is literally just this is all new, 6 months. There's been a lot of change in 6 months of my life. And for a very scheduled type A person, a lot of change in 6 months, it's a lot to handle.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And since the beginning of the year, so literally just, I don't know, it was one of those things where I could feel over, as the year transitioned from last year to this year, I could feel that my spirit wasn't settled. I could feel like, okay, God, I remember what this feels like when you took me from my high up management job and moved me to a smaller boutique, closer to home, with different hours, more family time. Like when I walked away from one career to another, I remember the stirring of my heart, feeling unsettled. So I knew going into this past year that that something was brewing, I guess you could say. And this past February, I just looked over at my husband one night and said, what would you think if I pursued real estate? And
Wow.
you know Chad.
Yeah. He is my arch nemesis. Oh, Chad.
Yes.
No, no, I love Chad.
He's not a man of many words. That's not his love language. And so when he looked at me and like seriously said, I think you'd be really good at that, I immediately was like, okay, God, you got my attention. I'll at least meet with the lady who sold us our house, who's been a longtime family friend who I trust, and play 20 questions. And I just could not let the idea go. It was exciting. It was something new, but yet challenging.
Yeah.
And we weren't really sure what to do. So literally I remember it was on a first Sunday, March, I think it was. I mean, this happened super quick.
Right.
I asked God that morning at church, I said, God, I don't know what to do. And you made me, so you know how I work. You know that I can try to connect dots and pretend like I think it's your idea when it may or may not be.
Right.
And so I said, I need you to give Chad the yes or no. And I prayed that like at communion.
Wow.
Because that was just weighing on my heart. And that night we had a worship service at church. And then we came home, and we had kind of been talking to a buddy who has a privately owned business and works for himself, who takes risk basically.
Right.
And I think Chad talked about some pros and cons. And that night when he came home, I just, being the little person that I am, who was not going to pry, was going to wait on God.
Yeah.
I pried, and I was like, so what did y'all talk about?
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he just said, well, I mean, you overheard some of it, but basically we're going to start figuring out what we need to do, what that's going to look like so that you can pursue this.
Wow.
And I just burst into tears.
Yeah.
And he's like, why are you crying?
Right.
And so I explained to him that I had prayed for an answer to come through him. And then he was like, okay, I got chills too. So that's our first big step of the year this year of me in my life, kind of surrendering and obeying a calling that God put on my heart that I felt very strongly about, and that I was scared out of my mind about, still very unsure of why in the world that he wants me to do this. Because I was thinking, oh yes, I'll have this knocked out. It's a 60-hour course online. I have 2 days at home during the week, not to mention the weekend. I'll have this thing knocked out like in less than a month, take the test. And I'm going to scoop in the market, before the market goes back down in the fall.
Yeah.
I'm still not done. I'm not even at 50%.
Yeah.
Studying.
Yeah.
Because to add to all the changes, I am today 16 weeks pregnant.
Yeah.
And so,
that's awesome.
Thanks. So when I said I had a lot of changes,
yeah,
God's thrown a lot at me and a lot at our family.
Right.
And so when I walked away from the boutique that I'd been at for shy of a year, like I said, still doing some things for them, thankfully. We were thinking, okay, God, this setup with working for my dad, getting to spend that quality time with my dad that I've missed out on since I basically went to college. I've missed that. He and I are so much alike. We actually work really well together.
Really? That's awesome.
Because we just kind of are like, whatever, we make comments, we joke, but we're both very like on task, get the job done.
Yeah.
And so we've functioned really well together. My mom was like, y'all are going to kill each other, but it's been great. And then the studying has been challenging. So it's really forced me to fully trust God. And so it's this journey, like we're noticing like all the blessings of transitioning into full-time to part-time to sometimes, as they call me at the shop, at my dad's shop, they call me sometimes, because in the month of June I was so sick that I literally only showed up sometimes.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And so, I take it and smile. And I'm like, you're right. Sometimes I did bring cookies today. So,
Nice.
But anyways, we were not expecting. I mean, each week it's like I discover a new blessing of more of why he wanted me to follow this new passion, new career, new directive for my life.
Yeah.
Because like I said, working for my dad's been a huge blessing, being able to have the time to study, of course, the extra time at home to take care of my house and my 3-year-old, and the flexibility to honestly, I could spend the entire morning up until lunch, like I have the last 2 days, doing nothing,
Yeah.
relaxing. My devotion and my quiet time, my live devotion videos that you talked about earlier, it's really given me the chance to slow down in life, which
Yeah.
I don't recall ever being slowed down in life ever.
Yeah.
And then with all the sickness that I had at the beginning of the pregnancy, I would never have been able to balance the guiltiness I would have felt having a full-time job and the commitment level that I normally have for work. And the sickness, that would have just mentally been so much for me to handle. And God knew that
Yeah.
ahead of he knew it months before we knew it.
Yeah.
And so it's just been awesome to see. And I know like this journey's not over. I know he's going to continue to unravel this woven rope, if you want to say, of numerous more blessings of why he's got me following this new path.
Right.
What's crazy that my in-laws like to remind me is that, you know, before Chad and I were married and after we were married, I was just like, no, I'll never do anything else. This is my passion. This is my career. Why else did I go to school for it? And it's just amazing how they always say, you know, family and having kids changes your, you know, passions, which it does.
Right.
But God's the one that really does. And
Yeah.
that's what's been so cool is that, like every single day of my life now is centered around him, and everything I do,
Wow.
everywhere I go, like I don't have to be afraid to infuse him. I don't have to try to figure out, do I have to separate him or do I not? Not that the companies I worked for made me, but it was that just mental mind of, you know, do I have to separate or do I have to set those boundaries? And it's just been so awesome to see how God just is infused into every aspect of my life right now. And I talk about my devotions, how I just, ever since I surrendered and said, God, I'll follow you with career-wise, it's shown me how to follow him in other ways in my life, and which I know we'll end up talking about here in a little bit. But I just have this, like I feel like I've just been filled up and I'm overflowing with this joy.
Yeah.
I actually talked earlier this week about like, it's so hard to put into words, which is, and I'm already a rambler, so that's not helpful when you're trying to describe to someone the feeling. But it's crazy that I was saying, you know, all the blessings that I've experienced since I made that commitment in February. Okay, God, this is a huge trust. I had no clue when I said, here's my 2 weeks. I had no idea what day one was going to look like.
Wow.
And then after I got through that day, I was like, I have no clue what tomorrow's going to look like. And it was scary, but freeing at the same time. And so all the blessings that have come out of that, not just family time, great flexible schedule, but the freeing feeling of not having every day planned. And coming from a type A person, that is very hard to grasp, but that could be awesome.
Right.
Still have my planning day, so I got my to-do list. But I don't stress over like I used to. Like if I don't get those things marked off, I'm like, well, you know, if tomorrow comes, then I guess I'll do it then. Or if it doesn't get done, it's not life or death. And I used to just overwork myself mentally about stuff like that. And so it's made a much more relaxed environment for my family and my extended family, like, you know, our parents, our in-laws, for everyone that surrounds us.
Right.
But there's this overwhelming joy that all these blessings that he's put in my life in the last 6 months, I know I would have still seen them as blessings, but it's like I have a newer perspective of them, and I appreciate them in a totally different way than I know I would have if I had not learned to surrender like fully to him.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Nice.
Don't you like how I just ramble and all of a sudden I just stopped?
No, that's great. No, I think that answered my question perfectly. And
Most people could tell you, so what do you do? Like in 2 sentences. I'm pretty sure that was probably like a whole 20 minutes.
No, that's the way I answer every question. It's like, you know, how do you want your coffee? It's just, you know, it's the way it happens for me. I don't know. My wife, she is like to the point. It's like pretty quick, you know. And so when we're doing like pre-marriage counseling with a couple or something, you know, man, I'll be like going around like this like nature trail, like, you know,
Yep.
and then she's just like, why did you say that? You know, she just like gets in there. It's like,
yeah,
like get some. And I'm just kind of like just kind of going around the edges. Anyway.
I do try sometimes, but it's
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah, it's hard for me too, because I have to like I have to like become another person. You know, like the like what, I don't remember that movie, Master of Disguise. You ever seen that Master of Disguise movie?
A long time ago.
Yeah, that's what I have to do. I have to become another person.
See, for me, it just feels like holding in a sneeze.
Oh yeah,
so
yeah.
It's painful. I need to get all the details out.
Yeah, because they need to know. They need to know.
That's right.
And that's perfect for this, because they do need to know. But I tell you, so I wanted to know kind of, so how did you, you know, go from, so for you, you know, you do your devotions and, you know, and for those of you who don't know, Melanie does live devotions on her Facebook page every, what would you say? What is your frequency?
Typically every day, but since the pregnancy started, it's a little spastic.
Yes.
So now that I'm back into a normal routine, I try 3 to 4 times a week.
Right.
Like I was going to do one earlier today, but since I've been slightly non-productive and was doing this, I decided I probably should trade up laundry for the video earlier and just hope that tomorrow when I do use that devotion, that it'll be perfect timing. You know, I try to not beat myself up if I skip a video or skip something like that, because I try to just tell myself, but you know what, God may use it even better tomorrow for someone who may hear it, who might not have heard it today.
Right.
I've had to learn to, like, once I started those, that type A came in, like, you don't do it every day, then you're not following through. And I'm like,
oh yeah,
wait a minute, I used to not even do these at all. So
no, we put out one. That's why we started putting out one every week, because I knew that I could do that, and it's kind of like, I don't know, I felt like I could accomplish at least one in a week.
Right.
But because there's a whole lot of work that goes into them. I mean, there's a whole lot of work in there behind the scenes. But so your videos are primarily like you do makeup tutorials and you talk about makeup, and I have to be quite 100% honest with you. I don't typically watch your video, but I do listen.
Fast forward, don't you?
I pretty much like fast forward, and then I'll have my headphone in, or I'll be, you know, driving with my headphone in, and I catch most of my videos and devotional people just like that. So I'll put my earbud in and just listen. But so whenever you started doing these, I want to know, like, you know, how did Melanie get here? You know, like, how did you, and I know that's a broad encompassing question, like, why, and, you know, there's people out there who've been debating on, you know, maybe doing it, bro. And they have a real message. And just like me, I was scared to death to put something out here, because for me, I'm like a perfectionist. I draw things, you know, very well, that I used to, you know, draw stuff with your husband, you know, I used to draw the bridges, you know, and stuff, but everything in my head, that's perfect for me, by the way, because everything has to be perfect. Everything has to be, you know, and so for these videos, you know, I put them off forever because it wasn't perfect. But how did you get here and want to do these videos? What put it in your heart, and what can you say to somebody who's kind of like Melanie, you know, 1.0, thinking about doing these videos, getting ready to go 2.0, start doing videos?
I'd say one tip based off of exactly what you just said is that going live, there is no like redo.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. So if you're worried about messing up, just go ahead and accept you're probably going to mess up.
Right.
If you're like me, you may get splotchy and turn red. I can't see if I am right now. That's just a natural occurrence for me. I might get red and embarrassed, or
I do too.
Happens. So first you have to accept that, like, you may say the wrong thing and mess up.
Right.
But it kind of shows people who you are and that you're not perfect.
Yeah.
which makes me think about my journeys that when we started reading the Bible as a church over a year ago. So a year prior to like me saying, okay, I fully surrender.
Right.
Not just a little, not just I want to, how do I do it, but like fully. It started with reading about the people in the Bible, and God was literally showing me how imperfect they were, which actually sparked anger in me that I've never experienced before.
Wow.
So I was like, why would you use them if they're so messed up?
Yeah.
Which turned into me realizing I'm super messed up. And then God's
Wow.
like, you should share that, which I was like, nope. Here in the South,
Come on.
we are taught that we hold it together.
Right.
And you put on your little Southern smile and everything's peachy and fine. And you do not share your news with the world.
You got to clean the house because people are coming over.
That's right.
You can't have...
And what you don't have time to, you put in that closet. You just put it in the closet, save it for later.
That's right. That's right.
Yep. And so, you know, it's not that, you know, your mom and your grandmother intentionally raise you that way, but that was just a part of life, a part of their, you know, their time frame.
Right.
So I would say God was probably preparing me, was preparing me. Like I've been thinking about it. I was talking to my mother-in-law today. She's such a great listener, a resource, kind of a bounce back wall through conversation. And kind of, I guess God's kind of been piecing it all together because I've been nervous, like, what am I going to say today, Lord? You know?
Right.
But she reminded me, you know, it's like pottery, you know, it's got to be broken and reheated to be a beautiful piece. It talks about, you know, clay and just how he'd be moldable. Well, it took me reading about the brokenness of the people that God used and the imperfections to realize that I was broken and imperfect, but God could still use me. It took him forcing me after a few weeks to share with my small group how broken I felt.
Wow.
I was stubborn. I mean, not that I'm stubborn, but I was stubborn. I was like, nope, not going to do that. And I got out of it for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Ironically, the devotion that I'm sharing this week is about, or I've been sharing, it's about obedience and how you have to obey like Abraham did. Immediately say, yes, Lord, you do not delay obedience. That's disobedience.
Wow.
Well, I was disobedient. I was like, nope, I am not sharing all my flaws and messed up, not sharing how I feel like something's off and something's wrong. No, we'll just deal with this quietly in my little corner.
Yeah.
Well, you know, God knows me because he made me, and he's like, yeah, I can mess with those emotional strings that you have, and I'll just make you cry in small group to the point that like you can't hide it.
Wow.
And then the person leading it leads into something emotional for them, and then look at me and they're like, do you want to share? And I was like, nope. And they're like, okay. And I was like, but I think I have to. It was like, how do you hide this? Like I wanted to get up and scream. And for someone who normally obviously does not have an issue talking, I was like, I do not want to speak.
Yeah.
And then poor Chad, husband, sitting right next to me, he has no clue what's about to take place. He's just like, what is wrong with you? Like, are you okay?
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's kind of where,
sorry, go ahead.
I think that's where it kind of began last year. And then someone I've known for forever has been selling this makeup for a long time. I've never had any interest to sell anything from home on my own. Ironic, since I was a salesperson for so long. I was like, no, I can't do it at home. I need like the support of other people, and I'll do it in their, you know, in the comfort of that. I've never had interest, never wanted to. I've just supported my friends who did stuff like that. And before I started juggling the numerous things that I listed off in the first, half of the video, I joined that last year.
Wow.
And part of that introduction is using your social media to, you know, market and tell people that you're doing this. And one thing that my leader pushed me to do is to do live videos. And I was like, absolutely not. Like, do you know how red I turn? Like, we do not, no one wants to watch that. And, you know, I was just like, I mean, I don't even know the products that well. And she's like, well, you know, once you do one, you're fine. Like, you get it out of the way, just do it. And so finally I got something that I really loved and I was excited. And so I was at work that day at the boutique and I told one of the girls, I was like, I think I'm going to do it. It took me all day talking about it. I think I'm going to do a live, like over some lipstick or something, some lip gloss.
Yeah.
What I didn't know is that God's good at what he does, and he's sneaky, and he is like, you have no clue what's going to be happening after this video. Like, you have no clue what's coming, but go ahead and do your live about your lipstick. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So I did, and of course it was terrible. Internet cut out because I was in the bad spot in the house. Had to do a retake number 2. So after that, I just started doing some, like you said, makeup tutorials, or basically just like my leaders did, just talking to people, putting on the product and just talking about it, and just kind of my morning routine, but live.
Right.
And of course I did a couple at night, like with my son there. He always draws a good crowd, but it doesn't last long because a 3-year-old on a live video, it's you know, it goes downhill real fast.
Yeah.
And you know, you don't want everyone to see the ugly side of you. That, you know, you have to come out of the screen like, I'm going to kill you if you do not behave. Hi everybody. You know.
I had to put like a block like this big on my last video. So like, because he started licking his sister's face, and I was like, people are going to think I am absolutely crazy if I leave that in there. So I put like a summary block of what I was talking about. It looked really pretty. No one knew, but nice. he was licking all kind of face under that block, and I was just I didn't have any idea. I was just going. And
in the zone. Oh yeah.
In the zone, yeah.
I've had moments like that with Reese. Yeah. So it started out doing makeup. Then it started out, which was kind of a confidence booster. I think that God was like, see, you can do a video. Now, I didn't know he was telling me all of that, obviously, but then it kind of became a family thing. So then I kind of started talking about why I got into doing the makeup and how it was really great for family. And Chad even hopped in for one, not that he was really willing, but that was kind of a please, you won't have to ever again do it. So it's like God was like baiting me, like, see, you can do the video. Oh yeah, put your family in it. Oh yeah, now get comfortable talking to people about you and your life.
Yeah.
Because what I didn't know was God was about to say, because you're about to open up your real world, like everything to everybody.
Wow.
And so it was this building this confidence and this trust between people, and people are just, I mean, at least the people on my Facebook were super nice and supportive. And of course, you know, laughing at Reese, thinking it was hilarious. And I thought it was hilarious that Chad was on there. So it was like this relationship that God was building with my phone, but really with people.
Absolutely.
And making connections and just showing people who I was. And I had no clue that God was about to show them and allow me to take them through my brokenness, through my mess ups, through the healing process, through the ups and the downs, through my super excitement. Because some mornings I think people have probably thought, like, did she drink a whole pot of coffee? But I just get that so excited, you know, about sometimes with devotions. So basically it became one morning I was like, I think I should share a verse this morning.
Wow.
And so somehow it went from being me sharing lipstick to me doing devotion, like a verse, to me kind of just talking one morning. I really can't honestly remember exactly, but I began just one morning talking just like you and I are. And it started out just talking about what was on my heart and about a devotion I'd done that morning. And then I was like, I should start sharing devotions. Yeah. And so, like you said, I kind of do the makeup portion first, make myself presentable quickly so that people will want to watch the video. And then I start sharing whatever devotion I'm doing. Right now we're tracking through like Discerning the Voice of God by Priscilla Schreier. And that's been awesome because I'm at a point now where I know I can hear God's voice.
Yeah.
And there's something cool that, has been going on in my life where God has confirmed 3 times very loudly to me, something I'm pretty excited about. Can't share it yet, but pretty excited about it.
That's awesome.
Sorry. Teaser for the next one.
Yeah.
And so they got me kind of looking for something of, okay, well, how do you discern God's voice? Like, I'm pretty confident in this, but we still have that flesh side that makes us doubt, like, are you sure you heard it the right way? It's pretty audible when some stranger speaks to you about, like, have you been praying for something? So that's the teaser. That was the last confirmation.
Wow, that's great.
All right, God, I think I heard you that time.
Yeah.
So that got me interested. Like, how do you learn? And I got into it, I think, more so because I was like, okay, I hear your voice, but I'm pretty sure other people struggle with that, because until recently, until I fully surrendered, I never knew if I was hearing your voice. But it's crazy. I told people in my videos, it's crazy that honestly, I'm not doing the devotions for them at all.
Yeah.
By doing the devotions, because sometimes the devotion I share is not the same one I did that morning. I might be a day or two ahead. It might be something that the pastor shared at church the day before, or just something that, because I always pray, God, let me be a vessel. And so sometimes I go completely off topic, you know, because I don't ramble at all. And so it just kind of is whatever's that topic for that day, whatever God puts on my heart. Sometimes it's even been a song I heard that morning, and just talking about the lyrics, or multiple songs. And so it's just been really cool, because I've shared with them, honestly, the devotions have grown me.
Yeah.
Because as I'm going over them and rereading the notes, it's driving that more deeper and deeper into me. It's like restudying it.
Yeah.
And then it makes me excited, because I can't wait to like flip the page and go to the next page and read more. One of the big studies I did right before I got really sick and basically missed videos the entire month of June was Exodus. And I was telling them, I was like, I know it might be hard for some of you to get excited about Exodus because it leads into Leviticus, which is definitely hard to read. But I had this newfound perspective because of my relationship and my intimacy with God, and where he's put me because of that full surrender and that obedience. I began to see Exodus in a different way. And so, of course, I do hope that somebody who watches or hears it, that God will speak to them through me. But it's honestly, it's almost like the Melanie show, well, the God show really, but it's really the God show. It's not about me at all, but it's almost like the Melanie show of devotions, almost like I'm just reiterating to myself the devotion. I'm learning it again, and hopefully God can use it to touch somebody else. I mean, that's kind of my mindset. I try to make sure I keep it that way. And it's crazy how God has used people to reach out to me, to encourage me and tell me that they've missed me when I was out for a whole month. Prior to me telling people that I was pregnant, they're like, where are you? Are you okay? And then once I announced I was pregnant, people reaching out to me, people that I didn't even realize watched the video, because I do not go back after the first couple of live videos with just the makeup. I just thought it was in my best interest to not rewatch myself, because I would just judge myself. And once the devotion started, I just very quickly told myself, once you hit share, move on. You know, I'll try to go back and read comments and respond to people, but outside of that, I've never gone back to look and see if certain people have watched it. I try really hard when I'm doing the live video. It's not even look to see who's watching or how many. I look up there to make sure I have service and that it's still live, and that's about it, because I want to make sure my focus stays completely God-centered on him. And that, you know, it's out there, I did it, and now you do what you can with it. Because I know very quickly my flesh could take over if I go back and review that, or if I go back and look to see how many shares did I get, or how many people followed it. And so there's been times where I've kind of wondered, you know, is anybody even watching it, Lord? Not because of me, but just like, you know I'm doing it for you. I haven't actually doubted, not necessarily me doubting that what I'm doing is right, because I know it is. But just kind of like, I guess I've been curious because I refuse to go look at that. And so when I've gotten those messages from people about how something that God said through me, or you notice I try to always say God said through me to keep me centered. That's a big deal for me, because of where I've my life before and my life now.
Yeah.
Going, basically, Miss Susan, my mother-in-law, put it in the best terms this morning, going from having a religion to a relationship.
Yeah.
That's been the huge difference for me, is making sure it's about God and not about me or I. That's a huge one.
Wow.
That's the huge transition. When you surrender, I've learned in my life, it's not about me and my video or what I said. It's about, let me focus on you, God. Please speak through me. If I ramble, please somehow use whatever I said and infused into it.
Yeah.
And I tell people, I'm like, if nothing else, I might give you a good laugh this morning, or you might roll your eyes at me. I'm not sure, but maybe it'll cheer you up for the day. Who knows? But,
Right.
but anyway, so I just always try to keep it focused on him. And it's just crazy how God gives you what I call these little love nuggets. Like I said,
Yeah.
those encouragements, because people who have reached out to me, I was like, I didn't even know that they watched me,
Wow.
followed me. I've heard through my mother-in-law, people
Yeah.
that have reached out to her, that we go to different churches and have said something to her before about something on my video, or family members that she has that we're not necessarily super close to, but I mean, we see each other, once a year or something.
Right.
And every time she says something to me or I get a message, I'm always kind of baffled. Which I want to stay that way, because
Yeah.
my biggest part of becoming broken was becoming humble.
Yeah.
Because I had confidence when I was in that career that I loved,
Yeah.
and leaving that was very hard, and I was stubborn, trying to hold on to, like, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm
Yeah.
doing. I can do it. Kind of that, like, trying to be superwoman and do it all kind of feeling. Part of that transition from job to where I'm at now, part of my brokenness was becoming humble.
Wow.
In a different way. And I'm glad that God did that, because you can't do, in my opinion, I can't do the live videos. I can't share my faith without that humility,
Yeah.
because then it does become about me and I versus God. So it's been pretty awesome, because it makes me think, as I'm talking to you, I've never thought about this before. It makes me think about, just like when you go and serve on a mission trip, or you serve just for a day or a few hours. People always say that really you feel like, especially if it's a first time for you to serve, you think you're going to go and serve and help these people, and really you're the one that gets something out of it, because you learn something when you serve others, when you serve the least of these. These live videos are like that for me. Honestly, I feel like I get more out of the live videos and sharing my faith, because it's a way of surrendering to God. It's a way of showing my flaws and my imperfections, because I never know what's going to come out of my mouth sometimes, whether it is me butting in the way, or if it's God, and I'm like, did he just make me say that out loud? I've cried in my live videos, and it's very hard to put on makeup when you're crying. It's a challenge.
I'll take your word for it. I'll take
it. And it's humbling to cry on a live video. To be that raw, it's different when you're in your small group and intimate, but to be that raw on a live video on a Facebook page that you don't know who's going to see. It's hard to go to that place. It's hard to admit that particular video I'm thinking about. It's hard to admit that you struggled for years with holding and harboring anger and resentment to family members. It's hard to admit that to anybody, much less, who knows who's watching. And God has taken me to those places in front of everyone. And that has just brought me to a place of this amazing relationship with him, of full surrender and obedience. Granted, I still mess up lots of days, and I don't obey always, and I'm definitely not perfect. As Priscilla said in her devotion this past week, like Abraham, it's about being faithful, not flawless. And I'm like, yep, I'm definitely not flawless.
There you go. That's Right.
That's like my new key phrase. I told everybody, I was like, after this devotion's over, y'all are going to be so sick of that phrase. That's my new catchphrase. I'm going to make a t-shirt out of it.
That's awesome.
But I mean, it's taken a lot for me to open up and share all that. And I would have never known that over a year ago, reading about these imperfect people in the Bible. And well, why did he use that? He used it so that all of us who are imperfect, who've messed up, whether it's huge mistakes or lots of small ones, because, you know, we like to be judgmental and think, well, we're not as bad as they are.
Yeah.
But the problem is the minute you say that, you're just as bad, if not worse.
Oh, yeah.
Because those deep, dark secrets that you hold tight inside, those small mess ups, sometimes, in my opinion, are worse than the ones that everyone sees, because they're so deep down that they're hard to get out.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where God's taken me. I want to believe it's made me a better friend. It's made me a better coworker, mother, for sure. My perspective on how to talk to Reese, my heart. Still have my, you know, not so good flesh mama moments where I'm yelling and then I'm like, okay, come here, let me apologize and love on you for a minute.
Yeah. I understand.
But I think the area in my life, well, not think, I know the area in my life it's really improved.
Yeah.
Is being a wife to my husband. Through learning to surrender to God, I finally, I'm still working on it because it's still a daily struggle of trying to make it practical in your everyday life.
Yeah.
But I know that God has taught me through surrendering to him of what the Bible actually means, not what the world means, not what you thought in high school it meant or in college when you were trying to learn what it like to submit as a wife. But it's really taught me what it means to be what the Bible talks about, a submissive wife, to be humble and to be silent at times.
Wow.
And how to surrender even if you don't agree.
Yeah.
How to love someone deeply even when they mess up.
Yeah.
Not that Chad messes up at all. They put that out there just in case he watches this one day.
Yeah. I have wrestled Chad in the floor at a certain place of business. And just for the record, we used to do this on a regular basis.
Yeah, I think I heard about those before.
And one time, Chad ripped my watch off my arm. Does you remember that? And then he bought me that little podunk little watch. It didn't even have a brand. It was just a watch, China watch. Yep. I was like, Chad, come on, Chad. You gotta give it. Anyway, no, I know he doesn't have any flaws. I know he's perfect. I'm just kidding. I love Chad. Me and him used to, do some fun little outreach stuff and on, lunch break. It was a lot of fun. I miss him. I actually miss working with Chad and the gang, so to speak.
Yeah.
I miss everybody tremendously. That was really hard moving, when God kind of moves you. That was really, really, really
hard when God says to go.
Yeah, it's really hard. But I, talking about the perfection thing, I honestly, that was a big one for me as well. I remember looking in scripture and seeing, all these names of people that were just, they were either super, what you would consider unqualified, or they were super young, or they were super small, super weak. I mean, you look at Joseph, you look at Mary, who is Mary, scholars think she might have been 15 years old, carrying the Son of God. You look at even some of the people that just went through so much, like David, who's the youngest of his family. He's forgotten. He's left out in the field. He's not even invited to the party. He's literally forgotten by his dad. But God, remembers him. You look at Daniel. I wonder how it felt to be Daniel. I know Daniel was smart, but Daniel was left like thrown in a den of lions by his own friends, like the people that he, you know, probably saw on a regular basis.
I'm only laughing. First of all, I'm only laughing because when you said you want to know how it feels, I'm thinking I do not want to know how it feels to be thrown in there.
I mean, you know, like I just wonder what it's like for, you know, but Daniel's so lonely. You know, I mean, he had to be. He was, you know, he served under the king, and then this takeover, and then serving a evil king, and he's like, just, you know, he's like, but he's faithful in serving the Lord. I don't know. I know that God calls people. And a lot of times he'll call the weakest person in the room, because when he does something, he is going to get all the glory for it. People are going to look at that person and go, there ain't no way that person did that, because I saw them when they were at, you know, the club the other day, you know, doing their thing. And, but, you know, like, he's going to call that person, and he is going to use them, and he is going to turn their whole life upside down, and he's going to use them to turn other people's lives upside down, because they're weak, and because his strength is made perfect in weakness. And his whole, you know, like when people remember them, you know, they remember all the kind of rough things they did. They realize, man, if God can do that for them, you know, if God can, you know, let that person start talking on YouTube or Facebook, my goodness, God can talk through me as well, you know. And that's what I hope, is that people would go, you know, because there's somebody on the edge of their seat who's been looking at your videos, who maybe, or even looking at other people's videos, who may see this one just randomly and been thinking about doing like a Devo, you know, just sharing their thoughts, their ideas. And I hope that they would go, you know, yeah, I'm probably going to screw it up a whole lot. And I'm probably going to do some, you know, every video is going to have a mistake in it. But God is going to speak through it somehow, some way, to somebody, you know, because his word doesn't return void. So I wanted to ask you a question real quick. And I wanted to ask you one question about, we ask everybody who comes on the show this question. And I'm just so glad that, first of all, before I get to it, I'm so glad that you came and shared your perspective. The whole point of inviting anyone on is just because God's put a message in you, and and this is just an opportunity to share it with a few more people. It could be 10 more people, could be more than that. I don't know. I'm hoping that people
just 10.
like this video, you know, but nevertheless, I saw one of your, you know, first videos and what you were doing, and I was like, you know, and I was inspired to do something. And so now, really, you could, you know, you're part of the reason that, you know, these videos are coming out, including this one, you know. So like you touch like a little, you know, in the people in the camera, you touch you touch one life, and it kind of touches a bunch more, and it keeps going, you know, on and on and on. And you never know when what the domino effect of someone just sharing their heart and their brokenness.
Yeah.
You know, somebody could be sitting there ready to like end their life and see this live video pop up and go, wow, I'm gonna check that out. I know somebody who, a friend of mine, he has this radio broadcast, and he's been doing this broadcast for forever and ever. Well, anyway, he got a letter from a guy on death row. He didn't know that this guy was even listening to it.
Oh, wow.
He accepted Christ, you know. There was another person in his life began to, you know, he like got hope on death row. Another person was sharing a message, and the other day, and a friend of mine, and this woman in the audience came up, and you never know, you know, when you're doing street ministry or whatever, or these kind of videos, or just sharing your faith in public, will happen. But this woman gave her razor blades, or she'd been cutting herself, you know, and like said, I'm free, I'm not cutting myself anymore. Just because of somebody who said, I know what, I may not have it all together, but I'm going to share what God's done for me. And, and I don't think there's a but in there. Like, I may not have it all together, but here's what God's done for me. I think it's, I don't have it all together, and here's what God has done for me, you know, regardless of it. But anyway,
I think that's exactly why people are afraid, myself included, to share.
Yeah.
Like as you're talking, I'm thinking about that. In the studies I've done, I don't think that after doing many of these different studies this past year and over the 6 months, one of the ones was a prayer book, and it's talking about how, there's really no such thing as coincidences.
Right.
It's all providence.
Come on.
It's all in God's moments.
Good.
Like if you think, oh, that's a coincidence, nope, God did that on purpose.
Right.
Most likely. And it may be 6 months to a year before you understand why, but he does connect those dots. I believe that.
Yeah.
Through my faith this past year, I believe that, because every devotion, even things that you're saying, are almost exactly word for word things that I've studied and shared on my videos.
Yeah.
And so I'm like sitting here and I'm like, oh, like my heart's like pumping, because I'm like, oh, that sounds so familiar. And
Yeah. Come on.
trying not to like cut you off and be like, yes, that's so hard, because you're like, I just talked about that. But
yeah.
I'm not careful, I'll get sidetracked on that. But like, talking about what I'm doing now, the surrender and obedience, I'm learning and sharing from that book all the different things that hold you back, like why you don't say yes, Lord, immediately. But they apply to so many other aspects of your life and your walk with Christ. So for instance, we're talking about sharing your faith. One big reason, I guarantee you, if you ask most people of why they don't share their faith, is the number one reason, and I know this because I'm married to a man who has said this for years, that I'm not bold enough. I'm not knowledgeable enough.
Yeah.
I don't know enough of the Bible.
Yeah.
And so in my opinion, all those things add up to fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're afraid of, are we going to say the wrong thing? Just like I was nervous about coming on here.
Right.
We're afraid we're going to mess up.
Yeah.
We're afraid that we might not quote the Bible right.
Right.
I know I can't quote the Bible. I know
my first
so I don't necessarily try unless now it's amazing though, because through doing Exodus and through some other devotions, and through doing memory verses with Reese, on a rare occasion I could be like, oh, in this book and in this chapter and this verse it says, and I'm like, whoa, that just happened. But like I said, that's a very rare occasion. But it's a fear.
Yeah.
And see, the devil uses that fear against us. He tells us, you know what? Don't share because you're going to mess up.
Right.
Don't share because you're not knowledgeable enough. Don't share because they're going to reject you.
Right.
And right now we live in a world, not to get into a touchy subject, but we live in a world where that fear is big. Like, don't say anything that could be offensive.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what the outcome may be.
Yeah.
But the problem is that, you can't live in fear and walk with Christ. You just can't. The two don't go hand in hand.
That's
you have to abandon fear. And the way to do that I've learned is when you feel those fearful thoughts, you have to literally either say out loud, I've done it plenty of times, Satan, get behind me, or Satan, get out of my house, you're not welcome here. I mean, I've had to verbally say it and remind myself, you know what, that is not of God. God does not put fear and negativity on our hearts like that.
Right.
God encourages us and uplifts us to do things. And so I believe every moment that I doubt or fear something, I know that is not of God.
Right.
And so I know all I've got to do is say, Lord, take those away from me and help me go where you need me to go, or do what I need to do, or say what I need to say. Because all God calls us to do, in my opinion, on a daily basis, is just to live our lives for him and leave it up to him from there. And so he may ask us to go plant a seed, but we may not actually have to go up to someone and ask them, do you know Jesus? Or ask them specific biblical questions. We may not even have to share a verse from the Bible. By the way we speak, by the way you live your life, by your actions, your fruits, that's sharing your faith, in my opinion. And that's what God's taught me in the last 6 months more than ever in my life. And I actually comprehend that now, is that I don't have to be afraid, because it's not my weight to bear. It's not my job.
Come on.
And if I mess up, God's going to use that mess up, because guess what? That person that I just spoke to and messed up in front of or shared my brokenness with
Right.
may be feeling the exact same way. And it took
Wow.
someone broken to reach someone broken.
That's so good.
And that's what it has. That's what I've learned.
Yeah.
Nobody who is broken wants someone perfect, or who appears to be perfect, because no one's perfect, to walk up to them and preach to them and tell them the things they need to do. No,
That's
they
so
need
true.
someone to show them love,
Yep.
like Jesus would have. Jesus walked with the sinners, and that's all God calls us to do, is just to walk by them, just to love them.
That's right.
Because a lot of times people who are broken and hurting, who are fearful, they aren't being shown that love.
That's right.
And that's what I've had to learn, is that all God asks me to do every single day is to love him first, and then to show the love to those around me.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's literally just in my house. It's just showing love to my husband and to my son.
Yeah.
And that's hard sometimes for us as humans to grasp, because we think, well, we need to go leave the country and be a missionary, or we need to go and tithe like 90% to be able to really do something.
Right.
That's where we get mixed up into doing things for Christ. God calls people to do that.
Yeah.
But what we forget is sometimes it's the smallest acts that he asks us to do, which is just loving, that are the most impactful. Because like you said, that may just impact one life, but that person may impact another and another. And, you know, our pastors preached about that. You may not impact the person who's going to impact the world, but you may impact a person who trickles to that person who impacts the world.
That's good.
And so that's where I'm at now, of why I feel it's important to share my faith.
Yeah.
But the other side of being important to share your faith is keeping it God-centered and not me and I. The way to do that is to make sure that when you share your faith, it's not because you feel like they need to know Christ.
Yeah.
Because if you have a moment of they need to know Christ, you probably need to keep your mouth shut. I've learned that.
Yeah.
You have to allow the Holy Spirit to lead you.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you're going to say the wrong thing that may turn them off.
Yeah.
But if God leads you to speak, if God leads you to speak and you mess up, then that wasn't a coincidence. God needed you to mess up for that person to see that you're flawed too, but he can use you. Yeah. And if you're flawed and he can use you, then I'm flawed, then God definitely can do something with me. You know, and that is exactly where it started for me over a year ago, reading about all of those messed up men in Genesis and Exodus. And just discovering that, like, wow, God, so what do you have planned for me?
Right.
And I know that my journey's not over. Like, I know that this year, like, so much has happened in 6 months, and I'm just like, we still have a good chunk of the year left, and hopefully years to come. And I'm nervous and scared and excited. Like, I can't wait, because I know God's got big plans, even if those big plans aren't leaving the country.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You know what it reminds me of when I turn red? You know what it reminds me of? You know what I think about every time I turn red? That was like one of the things that I was most nervous about when I started doing these.
Like I am now, I can feel it.
But I know I can feel it too when I do. I'm a little red, but I'm pretty well even right now, except for like in here. But like so what it reminds me of is like there's a verse in Leviticus, I think. It talks about the people with the virulent skin diseases. It's like if they have a virulent skin disease, they must go outside the camp. And that's when I'm preaching and I start turning red. That's kind of what I think people are thinking in their head. They're probably like going over that verse. But you know, it is what it is. But I think that those little things, you know, are so small in comparison to the cross of Christ. You know, it's like if I got to turn red in front of somebody, what in the world am I waiting for? Paul was stoned, left for dead, shipwrecked. You know, and you know, Jesus was crucified. One of the apostles crucified upside down. I'm like, and I'm worried about turning red. But like, you know, but it just takes just stepping out there and you know, and really just, you know, sharing the broken pieces. I'm telling you, the people want to see, real people doing real life, real things, and I hope that's what we try to convey, to the world is that. But I wanted to ask you one more question. So, to you, what is intimacy with God? What does intimacy with God mean to you? And I'd love to hear that.
I actually made notes on that one, sort of.
Yeah.
After my devotion this morning, I'm not sure that it'll come in handy at all. Also, forewarning, I think I heard the garage door, so we may have a tornado. 3-year-old come through here in a second, so I'm going to try to be quick.
Yay, all right.
Because like I said, once he comes, it's downhill. But
nice.
For me, intimacy with God, as opposed to what I thought was saying a quick prayer, worshiping with my hands up. God's been, slowly using those ways to make me intimate over the last few years.
Yeah.
But here he comes, y'all. Morning, yeah. But this past year, being a oh Lord, I was worried about the little one, but you should worry about the big one.
He's probably
We're almost done. We're almost done, boys. But he's gonna come say hey.
Mommy, his name is.
Where you at?
Hey there, chatty boy. I like your backpack.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
nice.
This is my husband Chad that I talked about. That's perfect, no flaws.
Yeah, he is perfect. He's absolutely perfect.
And then this is my
perfect hair, perfect
my
skin.
little 3-year-old, my cute hot little mess.
Yeah, look at that.
This is my family I was talking about earlier.
He's so awesome. Hey man. Hey little man.
Normally we have glasses on, but we lost those. I'm waiting for
Oh, lost the glasses. Oh man.
Yep. But of course, it was none of us. We did not lose the glasses. It's not our fault, right?
Chad probably
hey
broke
there,
them.
girly boy.
Chad, did you break those glasses?
Girly man. Yeah, I broke them like I broke your watch.
Just starting to talk about the watch.
You little. He did. It's evidence, a confession.
We're gonna have to cut all this out.
No, I have a confession on tape. I'm not cutting that. I have a confession.
I replaced your watch with a Walmart watch.
I know what you did. I remember.
The no brand watch, but
I've still got it. I should go get it.
Yeah.
I still got it. But go ahead.
Hey, we're almost done. Can you contain him for like 2 more seconds? Hard to contain the 3-year-old, but
hey,
maybe he can
I got
try.
one. I got one.
Yeah.
He's a world.
I'm really only concerned that you finally asked me a really good question, and I actually was prepared a little bit for this one, and now you're going to get the hearing of it.
That's all right.
But intimacy for me has meant being the busybody type A person that I am, has meant learning to spend like as much time as needed or called to. Okay. Hey, show them your airplane, and then I need you to go play in your playroom.
I love it, man. I love it.
Yep.
I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's red. It's brown. Is it metal? It's metal.
Oh no, plastic. Yeah.
Oh, it's not. Okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
But for me, it's been hey, take him outside with you. Yeah. But it's been learning to be still. Like I think that was the big thing for me this morning when I was praying, Lord, what on earth am I going to say? And I was kind of looking at the sort of guideline questions that you sent that you were thinking about asking. And so like, that's what I wrote, being still, like actually sitting still and in silence for the type A busybody talker.
Yeah.
Whether it's been on my front porch, on the patio, or in the chair, like having that time that God blessed me with. Is he in the background doing stuff? Yeah.
He was. Guilty.
Yes. That's gonna be great. You're going to have to do a little box over him too, I guess. But
a little box. I'm gonna put a box around it.
I've never been able to comprehend, much less sit still long enough to hear God's voice. And so once I learned to surrender, then obey, this intimacy, that you're asking about has grown with God. So like even when I'm worshiping, whether it's at church or in my car, it's like I feel like deep down something different than I felt before.
Wow.
It's that sitting still with him and hearing his voice, even if it's not audible. For me, I'm a very emotional person, and God uses my emotions to get my attention, whether it's sitting on the front porch and I literally am reading something and I burst into laughter because I'm like, wow, yep, thanks for pointing that out. I'm sure you're laughing at me right now because it took me how long to figure that out? Or bursting into tears because I just can't believe that God would love me enough to show me that.
Right.
Or like one of those aha moments that makes you cry because it's just so overwhelming.
Right.
It's a different type of prayer
Yeah.
where I literally picture like him sitting with me.
Wow.
Somebody in our church, one of our, I guess, pastor's staff, had an amazing sermon earlier this year that really still just sticks with me when I pray, which is, we make the mistake of doing like email prayers, and I've talked about this on one of my lives, where we say a prayer and it's almost like we hit send and then we walk off and we just expect for God to, reply later.
Wow.
But why don't you pray like he's sitting right there?
Wow.
Picture him in the room, sit and wait for him.
Yeah.
And I've had tons of times in the past, 15 years where college or pre-marriage, marriage, where I'm like, okay, Lord, I'm sitting still, like, hello, but still on my time.
Right.
I'm going to sit still and be quiet, but I'm also like tapping my fingers, like antsy and waiting. And now it's like, okay, Lord, I'm just going to talk to you.
Right.
And then I may pause and be quiet.
Yeah.
And I've learned to hear him if I am speaking, and then I get silent and listen. And it's like I can feel, where'd Daddy go? Go find him. Sometimes that works. Yeah, man. Works. Oh, he went outside?
Oh my
Cool.
goodness.
And then let me see what else. So I could wrap this up for you. But it's learning to actually like see him differently, hear him differently, to feel him. It's this intimacy of knowing, like, throughout my day, no matter what, good or bad, no matter how small or how big, knowing that I can just talk to him, and call on him. Yeah. And this is the coolest thing. The intimacy for me is, and this will be my tail end, I guess.
My parents are here.
Yes, they're here too now. The whole gang's here. Whole family's coming in. For me, it's I'm like, darn, I lost that train of thought. For me, it's that oh no, I lost it. Darn it. Oh, the details. Being a detailed person, when you realize that God's in the details, it does really overwhelm you. Yeah. For instance, like if you get a flat tire and you're pulled over, having God send the right person, a person that's safe and not harmful to you, and providing like instant, like situation of this could have been worse, but it only was this. I know someone recently that happened to, or those love nuggets I talk about, where God doesn't have to send me a little reminder, but through Reese, through Chad, little moments where I'm like, wow. Yep. And here's going to be my little girly moment. I talked about the lip gloss earlier. So a few weeks back, I went shopping with my mother-in-law before Chad had a conference at the beach. And, I'm starting to show, I need some new clothes. I want comfort, but I want to look cute at the conference because it's around his coworkers. And we go shopping. And this was the first week where I finally started feeling better. I anticipated we'd make it maybe 2 hours due to the heat, getting in and out of the car. I was like, I'll never find what I need in one day. No way. Right. I made it 5 hours in Montgomery with my mother-in-law. She drove me. She was my chaperone and my chauffeur. We did enjoy some Chick-fil-A chicken and some milkshake. That helped. Always. The weather for the majority of the day was actually cool in June. Like there was a cool breeze. So I was never like overheated.
Mommy?
Yes, baby.
Daddy says we're having
Yes, we are. And yep, go see Tutu. And then the last thing is that you know, we went to maybe 3 places, and I found literally everything I needed in those 3 places, and we were done. And I remember looking at my I wonder if I can I walk with you and move?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna walk and move real quick to another room. Yeah, we're gonna walk and move to the messy toy room real quick, since he obviously doesn't want to go to the toy room. Hey guys, we're sitting in here. Looking like it's my live video. Hey guys, we're gonna move in here real quick. That right there tells me that obviously I've talked way too long with you.
No, that's all right.
But for me that day, I remember telling my mother-in-law, like, I was standing in the academy of all places.
Wow.
And I remember telling her, I know this sounds stupid and possibly worldly, but I can't help but feel God's love right now.
Wow.
That he loved me enough to know that I needed to get a few things.
Yeah.
And I've terrible. Of course, Chad's like, you had retail therapy. Like, that's all that was. And I laughed and joked. And I said, well, possibly. You know, I am a girl who loves retail. But really, I told him, I said, I just had a great day. After almost 4 weeks of doing nothing but being sick, after 4 weeks of almost not leaving the house, of feeling like I couldn't take care of myself, much less my son or my husband.
Yeah.
Of having to have people serve me. Yeah. God was like, Melanie, I love you enough that even though these things are worldly and not important to me, I know that right now this is going to make you smile.
Wow.
And I know that may sound crazy to some people, and people who are, you know, over the moon, deep relationship for years with God may be like, I don't know about that. But for me, that was God saying, I love you so much that I don't want today to be a bad day. Yeah. And that was the day that marked this transition into me feeling better, having a little energy, a little spunk in my step. However, I can't.
I think that was right. Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe pep.
Pep in my step. There we go. So for me, that's intimacy with God. It's like having this deep relationship. It's almost like having this best friend.
Yep.
That, but obviously he's our good father, you know, to use the correct. It's having perfect. It's having that relationship where they know you better than anybody else, and they know exactly what will make you smile, exactly what will make you feel encouraged, exactly what's going to help you do what you need to do so that you can share his glory. Yeah. And like I've told people that day, I told them, like, I know it's silly. I went shopping and I got a smile on my face, but God was awesome that day and allowed me to just like feel like me again, to feel like capable. And it may have taken something silly to get me there, but he loved me enough to do that. Yeah. And so if you can grasp little things like that in an intimacy relationship with him, you begin to really grasp on a deeper level. So if he loves you enough to do that, then do you understand how much he loves you, that he gave his only son for you? Yeah. So
something that I wish, something that I've kind of had to deep like go back to is seeing him, you know, in everything. And JoJo's just telling me that he's everywhere. Like every day, he started. We'll be riding in the car, and JoJo will be like, "God's in the sign, God's in the store, God's in the trees, God's in the seat." You know, and he's like telling me, and I'm like, "Yeah, he is, isn't he? Thank you, Joe." You know, and seeing him, you know, in little things like, even I remember, you know, God used to communicate with me like all the time through these little things that people would think were really stupid, like clouds or like you know, like I don't know, just random stuff. But it meant something to me, and God knew that it did. And so, and trying to hold on to that is like is where I think where the, you know, where God uses, you know, the foolish things of heaven to confound the wise. You know, like he wants us to hold on to these little things that other people might call or think we're foolish, you know, and that in those things is the essence and the raw relationship with God, not always doing all these miracles and random holy things, whatever. But it's actually in going to the grocery store with Jesus,
Yeah.
like realizing that he's there and in the room, walking with you, talking with you, joking with you sometimes, and whatever, But I really appreciate your perspective, and I am so glad that you came on, and I love your whole family. I think y'all are great. We just bless you guys, and tell us how people can get a hold of your devos, your daily or however frequent devos. Tell us how we can kind of hear them or get a part of them.
Well, they just find me on Facebook, I guess.
Okay.
It's listed, it's my full name, Melanie Reese Taunton.
Okay.
And, you may want to friend me so that I can, I make all my videos live, though, so that they can be shared if someone wanted to share it.
Yeah.
And that so more people can see it. So if they look for the videos, but of course they can friend me. I will tell you, I'm a little choosy on picking my friends because I want to make sure that I surround everything I do with uplifting and encouraging people. But I would not want to turn anybody away if they wanted to listen. But that's how they can find me. And
awesome.
And I just want to say for anybody who ends up watching this, since this is not currently live, but eventually will go out there, is thanks for the patience of my my two loud ones that came in at the end.
Yeah, I like them.
Welcome to what I was trying to say, the non-flawless life.
That's right.
But even in those crazy moments, God's taught me to find like the beauty of that. Like when I look at them and how goofy they are, how loud they are, instead of getting frustrated, being thankful that I have that noise in my life.
Right. That's right. That's right. Well,
now, hopefully everyone else can enjoy the noise.
Yeah, we will. No, I'm sure they will. I appreciate you, and thank you for coming on to the show. And this will air on Tuesday morning, and so I'm excited for that.
Nervous a little bit.
Yeah, no, it'll premiere tonight, so it'll go out on YouTube tonight. It'll be a premiere, but it'll count down. So if anybody wants to watch this video, well, I can't really tell them that, can I? I can't tell them about something in the future. Anyway,
be a great example of just go ahead and accept that you're going to say the wrong thing and mess up.
This is so true. That's what this is. Well, I really appreciate you coming on, and God bless the Tauntons. They're awesome. And I guess we're going to end it. I'm going to tell you to stay in the secret place that you've been talking about the whole time. And God bless you.